Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me to shake this particular table that we need to shake today. And guess what? Today I have a treat for you. Joining us in shaking this table is one of my favorite people in the world. This lady, you are just about to find out. She's a maritime lawyer, she's an author, she's a coach. Did I say coach? No, she's a coach of coaches. You know, there are coaches and there are coaches. Okay, she is the CEO of the Discovery Center. She is the executive director, John Maxwell team, and she's the convener of the Blueprint of House seminars, and recently the Science of Money Experience. I cannot even call that. I can't call that anything else. Okay, so please help me make welcome Miss Mfon Ekpo.
Drum roll. The drum roll should be happening somewhere.
You look so sweet.
Hello.
You look so nice. You look so mwah.
Let's try to act sane.
Yes, let's give ourselves.
You can't shock them.
Yes,
just
you
like.
see, this lady is a genius, and most people know that part of her, but she likes to play more than anybody else. So just bear with us. You know, we like to keep it real. So today, I wonder, growing up, I don't know if you heard it in your house, but if you heard it everywhere else, you know, we live in Nigeria, and this is Africa, where children are being raised, and the next, maybe a child says, "Mommy, please, I want that red car." Oju kokoro, why do you want that red car? We cannot afford it. It is too expensive and all of that. So today, the table we want to shake is that particular table. Because my question is, how instead can we raise children who have an abundance mindset? Yeah, because, I mean, you know the kind of children that we need to raise in this generation are another crop of children. So let's jump right in. At your seminar, where I was privileged to be, I heard you give a quote from Oliver Wendell that said that we are tattooed in our cribs by the beliefs of our tribes. Yeah. What exactly does that mean?
Okay, well, it means, and first of all, I'm glad to be here. Hi, table shakers.
My privilege.
My privilege. Well, I said we're tattooed by the beliefs of our tribe. We're tattooed in the crib by the beliefs of our tribe because from conception to the age 6, in some places it's to the age 8. A child's intellectual faculty is not developed enough. It's not advanced intellectual and mental faculties. So, and those are the faculties that make up our conscious faculties. Yes. So those are the faculties that help us accept or reject an idea. An adult's own is developed enough. A child's own is not, up until when the child is 6. And so what happens, because the child cannot accept or reject any idea, from conception, and when I say conception, I want to say from the age of 1 to 6, but it's actually from conception. A child is at the rawest stage of being programmed, because every information goes straight to the subconscious. The subconscious is where we have our beliefs. Our deeply held beliefs. When an adult wants something to go into their subconscious, they hold the thought in the conscious long enough for it to get to the subconscious. Now, because a child doesn't have that filter, everything from conception to the age of 6 goes straight to the subconscious, where your programming starts to happen. That's why Oliver Wendell Holmes said we're tattooed in our crib by the beliefs of our tribe, because it's from conception to 6, because everything goes straight to the subconscious, straight to the programming. If the heroes around them become their heroes, the villains around them become the villains.
And
the norms, how you handle money, what you say. Money doesn't grow on trees. Where do you think you're going to get that from? Who do you think you are? Straight to the subconscious, straight. So a child is being programmed with those things because they cannot accept the idea. They cannot accept or reject. So all they do is accept at that point.
And you know,
yes.
What you're saying is so powerful, and unfortunately, a lot of parents are not even aware of this, because literally that 0 to 7 or 8, you know, is the programming period of a child's life. That's why we hear that in those days. I think it was the a particular sect of priests, they will literally tell you, give me your child till the 7, give me your son, and then I'll give it back to you for the rest of your life. That I have set the tone for that child's life. Exactly. And research, so much research is going on right now on the early childhood development period in a child's life. And it has actually shown that what you do, that in a sense is a make or break period in a child's life. And so with different things from health, nutrition, you know, the early learning of a child, the kind of care you give the child, the kind of environment around the child, if it's a toxic environment, you know, full of violence or whatever, literally sets the tone for the adult that child is going to become. And by extension, the kind of world that they're going to create. And you know, we are in Africa, and I guess we'll talk more about that later. But just to refer to what you've described, I think you were talking about the delta phase. Yeah, so that's 0 to 2. A child is like in the delta phase of their brain waves, and then between 2 to 6, they're in the theta phase before they now go into the alpha phase. And basically, in that period, they are really unconscious, just like somebody that's sleeping, like when an adult, you know, will be sleeping, and or in a hypnotized state, we can call it that. And as much as on one hand it's scary to think about it, that's how much they're just taking in and how that is forming who they are becoming. But on the other hand, it's also a fantastic opportunity. And I would like you to share with us what you think. You know, I mean, thank God you grew up in Nigeria. What are the things you think that parents can do differently? What are the things, now we're talking in respect to money, and because I believe that a child, we raise children to prepare them for life. Yeah, so what do you think in terms of raising a child to prepare them with an abundance mindset where they don't, you know, live like in the fear of money or as slaves to money? What can we do practically?
Thank you for that. So first of all, I think that before we go to the practical tools a child can use or parents can use for their children, you can't teach what you don't know. Wow. So when people say, oh, I want to teach my children, I'm like, first of all, have you taught yourself? Have you learned about money? Have you changed your own beliefs? Have you fixed the problem from the root? Or else what you're trying to do is you're trying to raise a generation to not be like you, which is what, you know, parents who have like dysfunctional backgrounds do. They're like, I don't want my child to be like me. I don't want my child to be like me. I don't want my child to be like, but you see, it's not in the wish of it. It's in the example of it. So the parent has to go learn and unlearn what they've learned. So that their children, without even instruction, can then become what they see. So I tell people, I'm like, that's why we have the Science of Money retreat, and that's why we have the blueprint of how. I'm like, go and learn about yourself. You are your child's greatest signboard. You're your child's greatest, you know, television to watch. Sometimes, even without instruction, the child will learn. And there are things we learn from our for instance, my mother used to go to work, but she used to make coffee before she goes to work, and she wouldn't stay long enough to finish the coffee. And as a child, I used to wonder, like, Mommy, why are you wasting coffee? Like, literally, she'll put the coffee and it'll be like full because you fill the cup to the brim, and then she'll just take maybe like a sip or two and leave. So we always saw a cup of coffee, unfinished coffee. Cup of coffee. Now that's like normal way of. But then I got to university, and one day, by just observation, I would drink coffee, but I won't finish it. And I would drink it, I won't finish it. By observation, one day I just came back and found out that I had left coffee in my cup to the point where she would leave coffee. Yes. It was not a conscious thought. It was not that my mother sat me down and said, now you will not finish your coffee. Up to this place and leave it when and hers happened because of, you know, she was rushing to work. Exactly. Mine was just formed. I was not rushing anywhere, but I would not finish coffee. So that's why I said, look, sometimes we dwell too much on instruction. Children don't need instruction. Children like literally pick up habits and things, even when they're not being conscious, even when you are not consciously teaching them that. And so before you start thinking of the tools and the strategies to use to raise a child, first become. First learn about money. First unlearn the things you learned that were not right. And so that's the first part. The second part is from the stage of the conception to 6, where we talk about the part that the child's subconscious is not formed yet. It's scary on one part, but like you said, it's fantastic to know this on the other part.
Wow, it is.
That's the stage in which children learn languages. That's the stage in which you can raise a maestro, or that's the stage to teach them, instruments.
Yes.
And any great thing you want to teach your child, any skill, any life skill.
Yes.
And it could be music, it could be just anything, any
Even
love.
presentation. At that time, they're not shy.
Any
like
love. Children are not born with. They're not born with a lack mentality. They're not born with hesitations and stuff like that.
Learned.
They're not born with just what will people think. At that point, there's nothing. There's nothing. There's just boldness. There's just boldness, and there's just the ability to take it all in. So I tell parents, this is the time first to protect the child. If you have toxic people around you, whether they're in-laws or they're like family, this is not the time to surround them with those people. This is not the time to say, I want to make peace. It's not the time to say, I want to have this kind of conversation. It's not the time. When they're like 10, you can start because they're already formed at that point. But at this time, this is the time to protect them. Shield what they're learning, shield what they're listening to. Once they pass that phase, guess what? They'll begin to make decisions in line with what you taught them. So at that time, you don't have to overly instruct if you did the work.
in the beginning.
Which is why it's at this season, after this season, parents start feeling guilty. I didn't stay with my child. Now I'm trying to bond with my child. That's why you hear that I'm trying to bond with my child, and it's a little. It's not
totally
late.
late,
It's not totally late.
but,
But that, like, it shouldn't come as a shock, because they're always shocked. Like, my child doesn't want to talk to me. Well, the face. You didn't utilize the face
wanted
of
to
it.
always be with you, actually.
So it's not that it cannot be done. It's just that get ready for the work. It will cost you at least double or triple the amount of work that you would have used at the first phase. So I'm like, learn about money. The second thing is form habits with the child together. So words, I was talking about words. Words are the most powerful tool you can use at that stage.
I remember even when you break something, then the beating used to be commensurate to the value of what you broke. It was not about whether it was an accident or it was something that was done consciously or in rebellion. You know how much this thing is. Do you know? So it's just put so much pressure.
So it's, and look, it's teaching parents that this phase is one of the phases that you are learning as much as you're teaching.
True.
Because you're learning not to react in the way you would normally react, because now you're aware that you're programming someone else.
Yes.
So your normal reaction to disaster or something that happens, this is the moment for self-control, because you know that whatever you say, do, is programming someone else for life. And so if a child goes near money and you say, put it down, or don't break that thing, or don't go near that, or do you know how much I bought this? All those, it's wise, it seems wise, but it's instructional to the child. Money doesn't grow on trees. What did you do with money? You cut up that money. What we do is that we start from that time to start separating the children from money without knowing it. To start letting them know this thing is a bit more valuable than you.
And that's so sad.
Well,
so sad.
it's also how majority of us were programmed.
Yes, actually.
So what we're doing is repeating programming.
the cycle.
Yes, it's just repeating the cycle, because they didn't mean that. And no mother would choose a
Exactly, to do that.
whatever wear over their child,
to their
but
child.
it's messaging because of emotion at that point in time. But what we don't even know is that the subconscious doesn't know right or wrong. It doesn't know my mother was not being serious. The subconscious just takes it.
Especially at that age.
Exactly, just takes it, and then anytime the child sees something, or you see children freeze when it's just. So I say, you know what? Be conscious. Then enter activity partnerships with your child. If your child comes to you and says something like, Mommy, I want this. Instead of saying, no, you cannot afford it, or no, we cannot afford it, or something. Just say stuff like, okay, how are we going to work at getting this? How much will you bring, and how much do I bring, and how are you going to raise your money? Give me 4 ideas, give me 5 ideas. And you as the parent, you know that you can, and you can say something like, if you raise 100 naira, I'll double it. Or you could do so many things. But at that time is the time to start teaching the child that the ability to get something doesn't depend on you, it depends on them. Because that lesson will follow the child throughout life.
And really what it is that you're supposed to be doing as a parent is raising a child, equipping that child for life. To be able to be successful in life, to be able to live life to the fullest, maximize their potential, and be what they've been created.
Yeah, but if you tell a child, I cannot afford it, what do you say to that child is, the power to afford a thing is not in my hand.
Exactly.
It's in the hand of the resources we have or do not have. And so what that child does when they come to ask you for money is they're coming to actually ask you, can you afford this? We've already programmed the child by then. Can we afford it? But if you start the child off saying, oh, mommy, I want this for Christmas, you're like, fantastic. Not for that Christmas, we put it under the thing.
Exactly.
Not
not real life anyway.
Not for that Christmas, not wait till Christmas.
Yeah.
Not do all those things that perpetuate a dysfunction. But say you want it, you can get it at any time you want. Now let's work on a plan. Let's work on a plan. How are we going to get this? Then child says, oh, I have these 4 ideas. I'll clean mommy's shoes. I'll clean this. I'll clean that. Mommy, how much are you going to bring? Daddy, how much are you going to bring? Okay, if mommy and daddy gives me this, I'll go to auntie this. I'll go to... So the child starts understanding that whatever I want, I can create the money and create the opportunities and generate ideas because you're asking them for the ideas. They're not all of a sudden. They're not all of a sudden going to just stop when they're 10 and be like, okay, ideas stay. No, they're going to realize that the ideas worked. And then you're also going to have like a feedback. When it doesn't work, what didn't work? What didn't work? Why do you think it didn't work? What can you do differently? Should you have woken up earlier? All this dragging children out of bed is because we haven't tied it to something
that they're excited about, or something they want to work towards.
You don't drag children out of bed during Christmas.
Nope.
So this dragging them out of bed for school, we think it's normal. It's not normal. They're just not looking forward to it. You haven't tied it to anything they're looking forward to. If you tell a child that wants to buy something that, okay, if you get up early by this time and do this, your money is attached to that, the child is up before you. So for instance, John Maxwell would tell us how his father, instead of just giving him like stipends, would attach his stipends to every book he read. Same thing with Ben Carson's mother. Any of the greats, the secrets of men are in their stories. Yes. So his father would say, I would give you this $10 if you finish this book. If you finish this book. So they would literally, you don't have to tell your child you're playing too much. Now start reading, which is what most parents do, just scold and scold and scold. Oh, you have to read so that you pass. You've not incentivized the child at all. Mommy, I've read this book. It's so interesting. Where is my 100 naira?
Exactly.
Tell me the 5 things you learned in the book. Tell me the 10 things. At that point in time, they don't know how to deceive you yet. So they're not necessarily going to deceive you.
Yes.
You can actually, but it takes thought. You can actually program child, but it takes thought on the part of the parent.
Yes.
It takes you not to be overly, you have to be a hands-on parent at that point in time. Think. What are the exercises I'll do with my child this week? What are the wake up earlier and do this thing. It'll pay off in the end. And that's why the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go. And when he's old, he will not depart from it. It didn't just mean train up a child in the way of the Lord. Or it's like in other words, saying program the child. At the time when the child is programmable, when he's old, even though he departs from it, he will not actually depart from it because it's programmed.
In fact, I've heard another, I think it was Ravi Zacharias or someone that said the real rendition of that particular scripture you just quoted actually says, train up a child in the way he should go. When he's old, it will not depart from him.
Exactly. Either you've departed from me,
I'm telling you, you're stuck with me for life.
The child is stuck with the training.
Yes.
It's like me being stuck with the coffee thing.
Yes.
And then there's some things that when they want to now unlearn, they now have to be intentional about unlearning it, because then I had to start noticing the coffee patterns, and I had to start literally making my coffee to the point where I could drink. But I'm now being intentional about changing it.
And you know that you just spoke to Frederick Douglass's quote that says it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. For me, it's so profound, and you know, we should be very careful with what you're doing. So very interesting. You mentioned that episode with your mom. I happen to know about the very interesting circumstances around your childbirth, and I want you to share that because yes, again, it goes to show how a parent can literally create or chart the course of their child's life, even in spite of what seems like challenges or what any other person has said. I mean, as parents, it's such an enormous responsibility, but at the same time, it is so great because you get children and you literally have the ability to mold, like to make a superman. Like, it's so exciting if we really want to think about it. If we can really just be deliberate and put in the work and at the right time, which is the early years period. So I'd like you to tell us about I know that I think you had like a forceps delivery or something like that, which the doctor said would leave you with some sort of
the learning disability.
Yes.
So I'm very blessed to have, like, I feel like, you know, we hit the jackpot when, like, God sent me to my parents, because I had people who programmed me
to be able to say that,
success.
Lord, let my children be able to say that. Wow.
And I know they will. You're already doing this.
All right. Okay.
My parents programmed me so fantastically well. So even before I go to the story, which I know the story you're referring to, there's something else. My father would always say, you have a first-class brain. You have a first-class brain. Over and over. It didn't matter what result I came back with. He would say, you have a first class. Like, he would see the bad report and he would look at me and say, this is not your report because you have a first class brain. So I'm waiting for my daughter who has a first class brain to bring her report. Like, this cannot be the report or someone who has a first class brain. And I would be like, guy, free me now. Like, leave me alone. He told me this from when I was conscious to when he died. He told me this when I was not acting like someone that had a first class brain. And he you know, reassured me of it when everything was going awry and just, you know, life was getting in the way of whatever results I could produce. Even when I was unserious. And he told me this, like, then when I entered into the reality of the fact that I actually have a first class brain, the training did not depart from me. It was just there saying, I've been waiting for you since to come into this truth. So like during the Science of Money retreat, I was talking to a parent who her son had failed school, and I was like, don't change your confession or your behavior towards him because of a temporary thing. Reassure him of the truth of what you know about him, which is that he's brilliant. Because she was like, they're telling him, read more. And I said, you see, what you're doing is you're enforcing something that reminds him that he's not like living up to the thing. And then his sister would say something like, you see, this your friend passed you, and this your friend passed you. I'm like, you know what, guys, stop. Go back to being normal. Let a temporary situation remain a temporary situation. Do not change your behavior or your confession or your proclamation to your child's genius because of what is really a temporary situation. So the story you're talking about that happened to me was I was born with was a forceps delivery that went wrong, and because of that, and the impact it had on my like brain or mind at that time, the doctors had told my mother, like, this your child will in polite terms, they didn't tell her in the polite way, but in the polite terms, this child will have learning disabilities for the rest of her life. Like,
it's causing some sort of brain damage.
Exactly. And my mother said at that point, she responded to the doctor and said, not my child. And so what she did was, she didn't tell me. Never told me. I never heard that I would have anything, that there was a problem. I never knew that there was supposed to be a problem. Because she didn't only not tell me, she took it further and she did things to help the situation. So she would sit down with me. She'll find out how I learn, and I learned with music, and I learned with words. So she would create the environment for learning for me. She would notice what I excelled at. I excelled at English, comprehension, composition. She would focus on that. I was not great with numbers. She would not even bother. She would not say, no, you have to pass math. No, that was my father's job. Interestingly, she didn't tell my dad what the doctor said either.
Really?
Because she already knew the man she married. All women kind of know the man, just like, and she knew that he would act out that report, and she didn't want me having something that I would hold onto as a crutch, or I would create as a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because imagine telling a child, you're going to be dumb. The doctors told me you're going to be dumb.
So
you're
why
going to be
try?
dumb. Why try? And then every failure I find, I'd be like, you see, they told me it's because my brain is not at the level. So even if it's a report, it becomes a dysfunction because you never push yourself. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You will fulfill that, and she didn't want that. So she taught me, and she didn't tell me until I graduated law school. And this is graduation of law school. I was given the award of the best student in professional ethics from the, in the entire federation. And then she said, at that point when I came down from the podium collecting my award, and she was like, oh, this is the child they told me would not be able to learn, would not, would have learning disabilities.
So that was when you were...
That was when I was told for the first time in my life. And so I was like, what do you mean? And she then told me the story. I was like, you've been giving this secret for this long. I'm like, I need to be very careful about you. But I'm so glad she didn't tell me. I'm so glad she didn't tell me. I'm so glad I did not know that I was supposed to have a problem. I'm so glad there was nothing to hold as a crutch. And that's the power of parenting, and that's the power of motherhood. It's the power of being able to mold the child and tell the child, look, you're special.
Yes.
You don't have, and so, usually when people say, oh, I'm dyslexic, and or this is you're a Down syndrome baby. I'm like, I understand it, but take away the labels. If you give your child a label to hold on to, it's going to be so difficult to break out of that label later.
It just caps.
Exactly. Instead, don't give your child limiting labels. Translate the labels. For instance, I'm not saying that there are not people who have these medical conditions, but translate the label. Tell the child you are specially purposed, like you are, turn it on its head.
Yeah, look at Nick Vujicic, for
Vujicic,
example.
yes.
Yeah, which is like no hands, no legs. Who would
And
have
you see,
thought?
the fact is that even if you hear Nick's story,
His mother,
there's a point when he was struggling on the floor, and he was like, he couldn't wear his trousers, he was like, so frustrated, throwing a tantrum, and his mother just looked at him and said, you're not different from any other person. Why should we wait on you hands and foot? You're going to learn how to survive. You're going to do this. And this thing is not going to beat you. So when you're ready, put on your clothes. And left the room. And you see, he had to, wear his big boy pants. And that was how he survived. But we have a generation of people who would have pampered and pandered to that disability. Yes, but you see, they don't know at that time that they're enabling. That's the thing. That's why
we're doing.
Is good. They don't know at the time that they're enabling. They just think they're helping. But what you're raising is an entitled child. Yes. Really. And so
out into the world and expect things to just happen for them.
Expect people
always happened. Yes.
And then even rely on their disability. So for instance, you hear people even take for example beggars on the street. They'd be like, I don't have money to eat. I don't have, I'm just like, wow, you have two hands. You have legs.
2 legs. No, they can't see beyond.
But that is also a dysfunction over a period of time. So you're saying they can't see. They're not even looking. They're not even looking for an out. They're just this is the life. And some of them actually were born into places like that, into like there are sections like that where like they all come and they just beg. Most of them were born into those kind of things, knowing that this is my destiny. And so they're just acting out what they know. They go home, they count the money, they give some money to their sponsor, and they take some. It's a life for them. So So yeah, that was the story. She didn't tell me until
Wow.
I was being awarded for the same brain they
That's-
said would not be able to walk. You know.
Yeah, and that is so
at that level.
powerful. That's so powerful. In case you're wondering why I'm holding my pen and my paper,
She's jotting
when
things
I'm
down.
jotting things
So she
down.
can
When you're
take
sitting with
things
the
away.
Mfon, you jot things down. Yeah, so I can take things away after she has left here. Honestly, like you never sit with this lady and you don't have your pen. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. So thank you so much. We're going to wrap up now. Finally, I just want you to tell us quickly. What's the one thing, it might not be one thing, but what would you say, what's the most important thing a parent should never do to their child or tell their child in the early years? And the one thing you think a parent should do or tell their child in their early years?